I think people are confused on this moratorium.
I think
Because
so too.
I've got phone calls as well about it. This is not a moratorium to stop conversions. And I thought we made that clear at the last meeting, but of course, not everyone listens to the meetings, and things get out and about, and only pieces and parts get stated. This is a moratorium to allow standards to be put in place, and right now, it's till October 18th, so it's a pretty short time period. The West 192 Redevelopment Authority is working with a consultant, and they've already been talking about standards, because we know we have hotels, as the one broker said, that's beyond their useful life as a hotel anymore. And a conversion could be a very good use for some of these buildings. We just want to make sure that they're done properly. One of the items we brought up was about the individual metering, because we've had problems with water and being turned off and having issues. And then just the look of it, so it doesn't look like a hotel any longer, and what areas would be appropriate for that. And how they can affect the tourism corridor, and making sure that we're complementing the tourism corridor, not taking away from the tourism corridor. So in no way is this a stopping of the conversions. It may be a slight delay. And County Manager, I believe that if someone has a property under contract and they are going through the process, they can still continue and meet with staff in that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so again, it may slow down somewhat, but again, it's important for us on this dais to get it right, so we don't have properties that are being converted poorly. There are some great companies that do great jobs at this, and we welcome them, and we'd welcome their input as well on the West 192 corridor for what they're trying to do and what we would look at for adoption of some of these standards and such. So just to set that record straight.
Commissioner Chaudhry, you also had a comment.
Yes, thank you. I want to echo a little bit, of course, of what Commissioner Greaves said, so I don't repeat it, but basically a little bit more clarification on the moratorium. And in our last meeting, I emphasized very clearly that there are people doing it right. There are businesses that are doing a great job. They're bringing some awesome products when it comes to long-term living conditions and transitioning into apartments. I just visited a few just a couple of weeks ago on the corridor to see what it looked like. I would live there. It's beautiful. It's nice, and they're doing it the right way. For example, separate meters and things like that. They are bringing it so that families can perhaps live there, or 2-3 member households could live comfortably. So there are investors coming and doing it the right way. I want to thank Deb from Magic Castle for being here. Her and I go way back, actually, back in the hotel years when I was mostly working on the corridor myself as well. And of course, the gentleman on the phone. I do understand the hardships of an everyday hotelier, being one myself. I understand, especially during COVID, all of the hardships and challenges that the hoteliers had to face. So the last thing I want anyone to think is that I would agree to saying, oh, we don't want you to do business, or we don't want you to be successful. I think that the biggest and most important thing for me was to say, let's bring proper products. And as we do that, let's make sure everyone is doing the same and they have the same requirements and the same standards, right? Because it is the only way to be sure that, one, it's an even playing field, right, as a business. And two, that's what's being marketed out there, and people coming to stay on these properties and living long-term have a safe, secured place to live. And we don't get the issues that we had, unfortunately, during COVID, where we have seen, unfortunately, that one bad apple could ruin it for many people. And that is kind of what we've seen. We understand, and I know, especially Deb and I, we go back, we know tourism is our bread and butter. We know and understand that we want our corridor to look clean and safe for everyone, not just the residents and our great employees that work every day in and out in our tourism community and in other aspects, but also our tourists that come here to visit and want to continue coming every single year. So guidelines are critical. I'm not always in favor. If you've heard me in the past, I'm not a great keen on moratoriums. I think that's a bad word sometimes. But in this case, when it was brought up, I believe that it was a situation where things need to be taken really seriously, and we have to make sure there's standards. And since there is none and there's conversions happening at the same time, we have to put somewhat of a stop so that we can say, okay, wait, let's pause it for a sec. Let's get these standards in place and let's go from there. I'm very glad that it was corrected on the 60 days, because I know as a board we spoke about that. So it is a short time, and it gives our staff an opportunity to get all this together, also with the West 192 and all their input. And just so you all know, on the West 192, we have people that are on the beat of 192. Those are owners and people that live and breathe that corridor. And if you don't believe me, please join their meetings and also give your comments. It's very critical. You know, your input is very important to me and to them. They're also forming a committee that they're inviting others that have done transitions correctly to come and join them and say, what else do we need to do when it comes to these standards? We don't want to make it hard. We just want to make it fair, and we want to make sure it's done correctly, so that later on, we're also not blamed for not taking action if things happen in a certain location. We want to be sure that we meet both those needs. So it is a short time, and I know that some have expressed to me, you know, the concern about saying, you know, as a blanket, not putting it on 192. I think one of the things that I remember complaining back in the day was, why are there school buses next door to my hotel coming to pick up kids at that hotel? If we, you know, those are things we have to think about and see, is that even safe? Is that good? Is that bad? So like we're talking about putting it right available to public transportation, walkable distance, and making sure it's the correct product with the correct standards. So all of that stuff will be discussed and talked about with staff. And I know that the West 192 is trying their best to make sure that they also look into all of this together. So that's just, I'm sorry I went a little bit lengthy, but I just wanted to really give my 2 cents, especially since being in the industry and understanding, of course, the hardships. So just know that I'm here for you guys. If you want to, please give me comments in this period of time that we're going to be, that the staff will be looking over this. Any of your suggestions are greatly appreciated. Thank you.